Today it's time for a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you is a Zerg versus Protoss. We're in the bottom right hand corner, playing in red, joined by the Basilisk decal on the main hatchery. We have none other than Reynor. His opponent in this best of 3 series, playing in blue, playing with the Protoss. We're looking at none other than Krystianer's main Nexus. Now, I don't really cast a lot of Krystianer games, and truthfully, it feels a little bit unfair. Looking at his current Aligileg ranking, he's considered to be the 12th highest non-Korean on the planet, and the rank 24 in the world overall. It's very tempting when you cast from replays, like what I am doing right here, for example, to just sort of cover the guys in the top 10 over and over and over again, maybe the guys in the top 20, and I guess Krystianer is just below that, but every time I've at the very least seen him play over like the last 3 or so years, he has played like an absolute beast. Now, of course, going up against Reynor is an uphill battle for basically everybody out there. Maybe a few players will be confident going up against Reynor. The likes of, say, maybe Clem? Maybe a hero, maybe a classic, but it's never going to be an easy task. So let's see how good Krystianer can indeed compete against somebody of Reynor's caliber. Now, this particular series was played at the Big Gape Cup, so this was an offline event, meaning that the players, well, they are there in person, and they can maybe even look at each other whilst playing the game. That never happens. Even when you are side by side or maybe opposite one another, they never really look past their monitors and give a little wink to the opponent. That would be kind of sick if that were to ever happen, but no, they're always really polite and nice to one another. They're never really loud. If you ever go to like an esports tournament, where there's like a bunch of different games all at the same time, let's just say that you will know where the Call of Duty folks are. You can hear where the Counter-Strike guys are from a faraway distance. The StarCraft players generally a little bit more, let's call it civilized. Let's call it, now I guess it's because it's not a team game, right? It's very easy to get very excited over your teammate getting an amazing shot in something like a Counter-Strike. To pat yourself on the back with your phenomenal play in a game like StarCraft, probably not quite ideal. Anyways, it's going to be... Ooh, jeez. Anyways, going through my second puberty over here. Maybe I'll finally be able to grow a beard. Anyways, it's going to be a Stargate here for Krystianer. No surprise. And I'm assuming we're going to build up that good old Oracle start. Krystianer, of course, from the great European server, and most of the European players, they do play a very similar approach. And I guess that's not really something that helps Krystianer all too much, right? So I just mentioned I don't really cast a ton of his games, even though he is a bit of a beast. As far as I know, at least the last few times I've seen him play, he doesn't really play anything too spicy. It's not really anything that, like, you know, really stands out all too much compared to, say, for example, a MaxBax or even like a Showtime on the European server. He just plays pretty ordinary StarCraft. Still at a high level, of course. But it's not like, say, for example, Hero, who is constantly mixing it up. And even though, if it wasn't for the fact that Hero was one of the very best players on the entire planet, I think even without that, we would still be checking out a ton of Hero's games, just because it's so interesting to see the way that he approaches the game. This is likely going to be some Oracles and then, well, into a quick Twilight Council. It's actually a very fast Twilight Council, just building a single Oracle here. So we've got a single Adept, a single Stalker, no third Nexus yet. Ah, that's what we're doing. Okay, so this is a super fast third Nexus, considering the timing of the Twilight Council. Normally, we don't see the Twilight Council going down just yet. In this particular instance, since that Stargate was effectively made just for a single Oracle, yeah, it's going to be quite tricky, I think, for Reynor to figure out exactly what he's playing against. Now, what are we going to use that Twilight for? Glaive Adepts. Okay. Good old Glaive Adepts. There was about a maybe 3-4 second delay or so on that research starting. Shouldn't be the end of the world, but it is something to keep in mind. Reynor will try to take note as well of the amount of Oracles that are out. So he saw a 350 Nexus start. He already got a unit over here for free, and I think this Adept is going to chase the Stalker in death. Now with the Oracle on the other side, it's all getting a little bit messy, right? You can notice a little bit of a refinement here that may be missing for Krystianer. The Oracle not quite flying around at the most optimal moment, and we do have Reynor, though, just going straight Hydra then. So honestly, Adepts can still work. Reynor has decided to skip out on the Baneling Nest. Reynor has skipped out on the Roach Warren. It's a quick lair. Very fast lair, actually. Straight into a Hydralisk Den. Double gas, or actually, no, triple gas even. Okay, so this is going to be quite a lot of Hydralisks. Now, Hydras are light, and they take an insane amount of damage from Adepts. How is this? I mean, this is going to be like a battle between a bunch of glass cannons. At this point, though, Reynor really doesn't have a lot of units out. And with the Resonating Glaives already done, I've got a feeling that these Adepts are gonna hurt. Let's see. No Roaches, no Banelings. Oh, there is a full wall off here for Reynor. Reynor building that wall. A very effective measure to keep the Protoss out. Rebuild it. Oh, maybe not. Well, the third base is going to die. At the very least, if Krystianer decides to target it down, I think he's going to get some Zerglings, a couple Hydras, and then still kill the hatch. At least that's what it feels like. Yeah, this is terrible for Reynor. Even if these Adepts don't really end up killing the hatchery here in the end, like the amount of value they are gaining is kind of nuts. And this is why we normally see Zerg players go for either a Roach Warren or a Baneling Nest when they are building up the lair. Reynor, I guess, was hoping that he was going to be able to get away without it. Decides to restart the wall yet again. He is already adding on a new hatchery on the right side, but if you look at the work account right now, this is a flying start for Krystianer, who's still getting so much value. Like, there's still no Roach Warren, there's still no Baneling Nest. Reynor is bleeding out so many units. How many gateways are there? There's only 4 of them here in this match. Imagine if we would have gone for 6. Imagine if there would have been a really nice and quick War Prism with this as well. Imagine it was an 8-gate all-in. 3-base situation at this point is done for Krystianer, who added on the Charge Research. He already has a Templar Archives as well, so yeah, double Robo. He's going to follow this up with what was likely going to be a Archon Immortal Zealot all-in. I think it may be time, Reynor, to rip off the Band-Aid. I mean, it's not technically game over yet, but how in the world are you going to be able to recover from this amount of loss? Okay, so as the dust settles, Krystianer is at 69 drones. That's pretty nice. Reynor is at 37. Not nearly as good. We have a bunch of Adepts shading towards the right side as well, ready to kill drones that aren't even here. We have the Protoss player now even recalling these units, but he's got Charge pretty much done. He's warping in High Templar right now, and I always like this double-layered approach. We can start heading across the map and get a very scary attack out there. Reynor is desperately trying to re-drone. He's getting a Lurker Den going right now, but obviously he can't afford a Hive. So lair tech Lurkers are a questionable choice in even the best of games. As long as we have a Prism out, and there it is, yeah, I think we can go for the killing blow. And this is a nice attack for Protoss, a really strong follow-up, because you cannot really mess this up, you know? Like, you'd have to try to lose with an attack like this. Most of the micro here from Protoss comes from an attack move. I mean, I love this little wall-off, though, for Reynor. Reynor really trying to get the value out of this, yeah, wall-off that he creates for himself, making sure the Hydras can maximize their damage. But yeah, this is why you don't generally skip a Roach Warren and a Baneling Nest at the same time. GG. Okay, next up, we find ourselves on the map Tourmaline. Now, why did Reynor skip the Roach Warren? Why did he skip the Baneling Nest? I think the timing on that lair, I didn't quite catch it, but I think it must have been about 4 minutes of in-game time, like a full minute earlier than we see, yeah, an ordinary lair start. What Reynor also saw was an Oracle and then a Nexus planted down, 3 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock. All of that is very normal. What it looks like from the Zerg's point of view is a double Oracle or even a triple Oracle start, aka a very normal build. What Krystianer did, though, was make a Stargate, go Twilight Council, only build a single Oracle, and then still get to the Nexus point at 350. And I think that was just a misread right there for Reynor. He looked at it, he's like, well, I guess if I'm going for such a quick lair, I don't really need the Roach Warren. I don't really need the Bailing Nest. I'm expecting a second Oracle to show up. And that first Oracle did go straight across the map after the Zerglings that killed the Stalker got pushed away. I wonder if maybe Reynor believed that that was the second Oracle? Because it did seem to appear very rapidly on the other side of the map. Yeah, ultimately, it's a problem with an easy solution for Zerg. Just make the Roach Warren. It's simpler, right? Just make the freaking Roach Warren. It's not that hard. But, yeah, when you are dealing with limited amounts of information, sometimes the hard way can look like the obvious one. Clever little strategy, though, by Krystianer. It's actually one of those builds for Protoss that works better against really good Zergs. Like, if you do that against your average Grandmaster Zerg, I think they will be more likely to hold it than Reynor would in that particular game. Not because they have better micro or better macro than Reynor, not so much, but because they are not really changing their build order nearly as much, depending on the scouted information. I think a lot of StarCraft players, myself included, were kind of set in our ways. In my instance, for example, when I play Protoss versus Zerg, or Zerg versus Protoss, I guess, from the Zerg's point of view, whenever I build a lair, when the lair is about a third of the way done, I add on a Roach Warren every single time. It's something you can't really reliably skip as a ladder hero. I mean, you can maybe if you scout really well and you feel like you can get away with it, kind of what Reynor did in the previous game. But I think a lot of Zerg players especially have rules for that sort of thing. It's like, I go lair, then I also go Roach Warren. Or I go lair, then I also go Bailing Nest. Reynor cutting a corner, being a little bit greedy, trying to outsmart the opponent. Ended up outsmarting himself. Must be difficult being good at the game. Anyways, Stargate coming up yet again here for Krystianer, who's now leading the series with a good old 1-0 lead. I think that's a really nice position for him to be in. Maybe not quite where he expected to be, and I wonder actually if he's ever had a best of 3 against Reynor where he's actually leading the series after a map. Now you suddenly have a little bit of wiggle room, right? Can you maybe go for another cheeky build? Can you go for like a 2-base all-in? Do you decide to try your hand at a full-on macro game? Suddenly, there's lots of options available, and the option we choose to go for is another exceptionally greedy build. This is going to be a third Nexus at 320 off of just 2 units. No second gateway in the wall off either. So the corner now that Krystianer is cutting is the lack of a third gateway unit and the lack of a second gateway over here. He adds them on in the, well, eventually, I mean, he completes the wall off. It's going to be a robo here. Reynor didn't have the links out in time. He did see it, but I think these reactionary Zerglings are not going to be fast enough. Nope. Reynor's best way to fight greed now is with greed of his own. So Krystianer, yet again, gets away with a little bit of momentum. Now, I say that. Right when the Oracle thinks it's time to go in, that's when the Zerglings commit. You will always see that. But this is still a phenomenal spot, of course, here for Protoss. Now, if you look at the worker count, life is really solid. Life is really good right here. For the Protoss player from Poland. There you go. That's almost a tongue switch. That's almost a tongue twister. Protoss player from Poland. Protoss, trying to say that 3 times fast. Not so easy. Usually I'm actually quite good at English tongue twisters. I've been told that apparently Dutch people enunciate words maybe a little bit too clearly. It makes tongue twisters usually at least somewhat manageable. Very quick Templar archives now on the back of this too. Yo, Krystianer is cooking here. So, I kind of like this. I honestly like pretty much all of the things that he's doing. He needs to be careful that he doesn't get overwhelmed. Sometimes you can get carried away with your own creativeness, I suppose, but he's cutting corners, and it seems to be all the correct ones. So I guess we're heading into some sort of Archon juggling now. How many gateways do we have in total? It's all been, yeah, these are just, these are gateway 2, 3, and 4. So he's looking to see if he can find a location to warp in those Templar. So he can actually warp in the Archons as well. But then we can bring them into the opponent's mineral lines and get a bit of work in. It is a very high skill strategy though. And one that can certainly go wrong. Like if you lose the Prism here with the Archons inside of it, you basically lose the game. Reynor is immediately going to counterattack you. And you basically have like 80% of your army right here. In this one little, paper plane. Not a great spot to keep it, but, you know, if you micro it well, it's not an issue. Infestation Pit already coming up here for Reynor, who did, by the way, not skip out the Roach Warren this time around. I've seen, I believe, Mana play this a bunch. I don't know if it's this exact build order. I don't think so. I don't think Mana goes for the variant where you go for like a 320 third Nexus. But Mana is always a big fan of going for the good old Archons. Hydra Den yet again. I'm assuming we're going Hive and Lurkers. Is that the plan? Kind of feels like it. That would be, though, Reynor signing up for a very big macro game, if that's the plan. He did go a Hydra Den, no upgrades for it just yet, so I'm assuming we're going to see the Lurker Den momentarily. Yep, there it is. Okay. So Reynor has decided that his best way now to win this series is to play the most safe and most macro-focused game number 2 here. And I think he's right. I think in the long game, Reynor is likely favored, but how confident can anybody truly feel against late-game Protoss? Maybe a little bit of Zerg bias here kicking in. I have been struggling against Skytos since about 2014, so maybe don't value my opinion on the subject too much. But I have seen a lot of pro gamers lately, Zergs in particular in ZVP, try to end the game desperately before the Skytos ever gets going. Cheeky little Zealot run by, down at the bottom of the map. The juggling is still going on. I think one of the Archons may die. Ooh, not quite. Zealots over here are going to get recalled. 7 drones. Not too shabby. Okay. Psystorm. Just about done. This is, by the way, not straight Skytles here for Krystianer at all, by the way. That's just what Reynor is looking like he is prepared to play against at the very least. But this is a big attack that may very well catch the Italian Zerg player here off guard in the mid game. Looks like he's ready to commit. These are still Lairtech Lurkers, even though we are at Hive, and even though we are getting Seismic Spines. Ooh, he's found a bit of an angle to be, okay, hitting that hatchery. I mean, it's 3-base Protoss, right? So this is not a huge eco here at all. He doesn't really want to waste... Ooh, this is actually an interesting slice. Some of those Hydras and Zerglings kind of caught off guard. He doesn't want to wait too long, but he doesn't know about Seismic Spine. So that's the Lurker ranged upgrade, finishing up. And I think we're going to commit regardless. Observers up in the air, ready to provide detection. Storming some of his own units as well, but that's collateral damage to kill the Lurkers. Krystianer is breaking through the front lines, and I've got a feeling that we may be seeing Reynor die here. Ay, ay, ay. So much damage being done here by the Protoss. That's the 4th hatchery gone. 2 more Immortals on the production tab. More and more Zealots come running through. There's still plenty of Storm energy available as well. Oh, the drones are pulled. Reynor forced to pull the boys just to try and stay alive. Ooh. I mean, 18 drones full. 23 right now in total. The High Templar have resorted to throwing water balloons at creep tumors. That's when you know things are starting to get desperate for the Zerg. Krystianer doing a good job as well, keeping his money down. We have another Immortal indeed, just wandering straight across the map. Little bit of indecisiveness here from the Protoss, trying to go in between the natural and then also the 3rd base. The Storms are juicy though, and he's not just spraying them around. Reinforcing Hydras have popped out of their cocoons. The drones get pulled a 2nd time around as well. Immortals not quite living up to their names, it seems, although there are exceptionally low 16 and 20 kills each right there, trying to get away. Reynor may be able to stabilize, but at what cost? This is not a Protoss player ready to go and GG out or anything along those lines. He's also not yet built up a 4th Nexus though, and that has me a little bit concerned. Yes, the Protoss economy is good, at least when you compare it to the Zerg, but it's not amazing. He's also all army hotkeying literally all of the things for like the last 2 minutes. Kind of feels to me that Krystianer assumed here that Zerg would have already tapped out by now. And he's become a little bit YOLO with the unit control. I don't know if you can just throw your units into Lurkers yet again. This time around, those Lurkers do have their range right away. Reynor desperately trying to mine as much Vespene as possible just to get a few more of those units out. But you honestly, as a Zerg, never want to be playing Lurkers on 3 base. Lurkers are very much so like an 8, maybe like a preferable like 10 gas type of unit. Okay. Well, we have a fleet beacon now, and the 4th Nexus did start up at the 3 o'clock position. Krystianer playing this slowly now. He was probably hoping that this series would be done by now. Now, this is great movement, though. It needs to be said. He's keeping tabs of all of the possible 4th base locations here of the Zerg. Just sniped it yet again. And now we end up in a situation, right? So, again, if we zoom out, yeah, the supply count is still decent for the Zerg, but, I mean, we have a fleet beacon. We got additional Stargates entered into the mix. It's 3-base Zerg against what is soon to be 4-base Protoss. That is never a good situation for any Zerg player ever. Yeah. A very mature way, honestly, to play this out. The all-army hotkeying had me a little bit worried, but I think this is the smart way to get it done. Now, Reynor has decided to spend what little money he does have on a Nidus network, and I can't help but notice, an Overseer in the back of the Protoss' main. Obviously, the entire Protoss army is out on the map right now. Tempest production has kicked in. Krystianer does see the Overseer in the corner, okay? Now, we'll notice the red dot on the minimap, but does he see? That's the question. Oh, no. Like, you can have the vision, but you also need to see. He's so busy trying to, like, dance with the units over there that I guess he will hear the scream now. This is going to draw a lot of units back, and in the meantime, a Zergling run by. Okay, has arrived in a natural expansion. It's 4 Lurkers here. Krystianer decides to just pull the trigger. Okay, I don't hate this. He decides to just bring all of his units in one big ball, but they're fighting not all at the same time. He needs to make sure that they're all firing in unison. He wants to commit to the counterattack and the complete all-in. Instead, he's now wandering the army back home. Hello, I think we need to go. Oh, he saw the amount of Lurkers. He decides to back off. Now he's going to go back. I think this is basically Reynor's only way to potentially get back in a game like this. And it's still costly for him. Oh, there's no detection. Wait a second. Where's the... We had 3 observers. Oh, they're still with the army at the front. Oh, no. Krystianer. Oh, no. Oh, no. This can be the biggest throw I've seen all year. Oh, he wanted to play the middle of the road approach, and I honestly think he could have, but he got a little bit indecisive. Still some really nice engagements here, though, out on the map. Prism does end up getting stormed by its own units and ends up falling because of it. Reynor tries to take the 4th hatchery yet again. Okay, well, that was bad. I will say the last 3 or so minutes for Protoss have not been ideal at all, but 4-base Protoss versus 3-base Zerg, right? I mean, it's by no means an unwinnable spot here for Protoss. We still have a Skytol's army, and there's, well, a bunch of Hydras, but really no reliable anti-air. Some Vipers are coming in. Zerglings are running through yet again. Never count somebody like Reynor out, though. He's always been a magician with the Zerglings. Always somehow finding ways to run through it all. One little Lurker as well on the right side. Reynor using some of that APM of his to his advantage. Now, it's not like our Protoss here is playing particularly slow. Krystianer trying to see if he can break open the natural expansion. Lings running through. Ooh, we get some abductions on the Immortal, interestingly enough. I wonder if it's a misclick, but... Oh, he's all army hotkeying a lot, though. And I have seen quite a few storms also deal damage to the Protoss army itself. And speaking of which, right now it looks like this army is not quite, with storm ever again. Not enough energy on those High Templar. Does he have a recall available? Okay, the cooldown is once more out, but are we able to even get this army out of here right now? That Lurker on the right side has 8 confirmed kills, denied the mining on the 4th base entirely. Now the Hydras. Oh no, Krystianer. Oh no. I think he's falling apart. We have the reinforcing Protoss units still over at the 3rd. So what we see a lot here is all units either getting controlled with the all-army hotkey or they're all on the same control group. And you see this weird stutter step where the Tempests are being stutter stepped at the same pace as all the rest of the units, which is obviously silly. These units have different attack speeds. When you see this, that's when you know you've caught somebody getting a little out of hand with the all army hotkey. There is zero reason for all of those to be in one big bowl. Oh, I think Krystianer here probably assumed he already had it in the bag. I mean, it certainly looked that way. Reynor is showing us, though, why he is a world-class StarCraft player. He's not gonna go down without a fight. Looks like we may have a cheeky little Zergling run by yet again. This is another sign, right? Not just the observers together, but another sign of somebody maybe getting a little bit over-eager. Honestly, this is not an army now really anymore that can properly break lurker lines. There's only 4 lurkers, 5th one coming up. Bunch of Hydras available though. And honestly, it kind of feels like a minefield. You see a bunch of lurkers, you see them burrow. How do you know? That's really only 5 lurkers, not even really that many, but Reynor's making it appear as if the armies are much bigger. I guess this is one way to slow down the lurker situation. In the meantime, ooh, the storms are blanketing what little army Zerg does have. And you know what? The lurkers at the front are gone. Lurker Den does live, 100 HP in, yeah, total only available now. No more War Prism in this area, though. And Krystianer is on 31 drones. 31 is just not a whole lot. Or probes, I guess I should say. They're being transferred on over towards the right side of the map. Oh no, oh no, the observers are dying. The High Templar over here that have run out of energy are trying to become Archons, but they also die before it completes. Looks like Reynor is already making a backup lurker den, and he's placed it right next to the very first one. He's now feeling brave enough to go out onto the map. He knows that this is where the lifeline of Protoss is going to be. Lurker burrows, it's going to be a big charge. It lives. There's still one more observer available. Okay, the storm does clear it out, but I think there's enough Zerg to still go after this Nexus. Reynor, though, wants to be careful. He doesn't even need to kill it. He manages to even up the score in one of the most spectacular games of SC2 I've seen this year. And suddenly, we find ourselves on Ruby Rock. I think Krystianer just experienced a bit of a meltdown. Like I said, these games, they were played in Cologne, in Germany. So the players are actually there. I think that second game may be one of those matches that he would have won in an online setting. I think a lot of people underestimate how difficult it is to play at a different station than your own, right? Like if you're playing from the comfort of your own home, nobody's really looking at your face while you're playing games. Like, just imagine you're playing a game of StarCraft, and then next to your monitor, anywhere you glance, there's people staring at you. And you know there's somebody shouting excitedly about your moves, right? And everybody in the crowd is going, ooh, whenever, like, it's a different vibe. Your chair is going to be slightly different. The table height will be slightly different. Maybe you're wearing shoes. Nobody ever plays StarCraft 2 with shoes on. That's weird. Maybe you should take them off. And then you make one little mistake and you start second-guessing everything you've done. Yeah. And it all comes crumbling down. Reynor, a much more experienced player, at least as far as, offline tournaments go, just because he's been doing it for way longer. I've always kind of felt that that is something you either have or you don't. Some people seem to be able to deal with pressure really well, and it seems to barely affect them. Likewise, other people, maybe you can do really well from the comfort of your own home, but you absolutely freak out as soon as that is away. I think I'm sadly, personally, in category 2. I feel like I play like at least 1,000 MMR worse when I am not playing at my own setup. And I think it is trainable. Like, it is something that can, I think, get better with experience. Clem famously was always somebody that kind of performed, I don't want to say poorly at offline events, but at least poorly to his own standards. Clem was an absolute beast in online tournaments, beating everybody, but then at offline venues, it was just a different vibe. Now, he's gotten a lot of experience, and these days, he's one of the very best. So it is something that's fixable with experience alone. But then again, Clem also started when he was like 14, you know? Like, he started playing offline events. I think literally at like 14, maybe 13 years old or so. So it's a different thing. Not so easy to just, you know, get more experience. Either way, let's see. How can Krystianer do in this match? Right? It's a full reset. Being able to mentally reset yourself as well after a game like that, after a field like that. If I can be so blunt, I think that's also important. Actually, fun fact, if you ever look at StarCraft 2 winners, if you look at any photographs of, like, players lifting the trophy, I want to say most of them don't wear shoes. It's very common for, like, players. The first thing they do when they sit down in a booth or at the stage is to kick off their shoes, just to make it at least somewhat more normal to playing at home. Back to a 3 minute 20-second next as we go here. Krystianer, yep, gonna be forced to use that Oracle here for defense duty. Reynor not really able to achieve anything here against that 320 Nexus yet again. Robo facility as part of the wall off. And I guess we're going Templar Archives once more. Actually, we don't have a Twilight Council yet, so I have to keep an eye out on the exact follow-up here for Krystianer. This is late. Yeah, that was late. That could have been planted down a bit ago. Reynor really wants to see that Oracle activate the Pulsar Beam. And there it is. Every time the Oracle activates the attack, it costs a bunch of energy. Lair now coming up for Reynor, and I'm assuming we're gonna see a Roach Warren or a Baneling Nest once more. You kind of do need a Roach Warren against this type of thing, and there it is. Reynor reading this as an identical build. And I think that's another thing, actually, that's a bit different if you're like a ladder hero. Having one build order in the matchup is enough, right? Like, if you have one good build order in Protoss versus Zerg, as a ladder player, when you're just really playing best of ones, that's enough. Krystianer is now playing effectively a carbon copy of the previous game. And Reynor has seen it already. Like, he knows what this is likely going to lead into. So I wonder if he's going to be able to deal with the Archon drops a little bit better too. Not that he was dealing with it poorly in the previous match, but Zerg here, very much so the reactionary race. And he may feel just greedy enough to squeeze out some more drones. This 5-minute Spore Crawler is just in case there would be a potential, like, Lurker follow-up, or Lurker follow-up, Dark Templar follow-up, or maybe a bunch of Oracles. Already a quick 4th hatchery here. Hydra then on the back it is. Cheeky little Zergling will see that the Prism indeed is once more in position. And the Archons will be arriving here momentarily. Now, of course, this was led into like a 3-base all-in, right? From Krystianer. At the very least, like, he did go for a 4th Nexus eventually, but it was all kind of meant to be a win already. A lot of Zerglings this time around. Reynor actually not opting to go for any Roaches is a little weird to me. Maybe he feels like he doesn't need it. Countering Archons with Zerglings is something. I feel like it's pretty terrible, but turns out if you are treating the Archons as if they are boiling hot, and you pull the Zerglings away as soon as they touch, it's kind of okay. Ooh, we go for more Archons, I guess. Yeah, 4 Archons here in total. This is a brave move, though. The Prism itself is taking a lot of damage. Pretty good, all things considered. We have the unit showing up. Brenda dies, but she does get the final hit. And with the Prism falling here, can Krystianer still continue to push? Drones have been forced to stack up. We have 7 gateways here in total. It is a different flavor of an all-in. This time around, there are no robo units with the mix, so it all hits a little bit sooner. I still feel like Roaches are a really good choice, guys, but Reynor has apparently decided that he hates Roaches. Fair enough. It's so flimsy. All these games, man, they're so flimsy. Both players are trying their absolute best to make the army units that they have count. Now, obviously, if you're dancing on creep for this long, the reinforcing Hydras are gonna pop out of their cocoons. More and more reinforcements right here for Krystianer. We have a whole lot of Hydras available now, though. And when Hydras get to this point, right, where they have like an overwhelming amount, when they get to the numbers where Protoss can't really fight them straight up anymore, they do become extremely oppressive. Reynor losing a lot of links, losing the queens, but keeping the Hydralisks alive for the most part. Fourth hatchery in the far bottom left, by the way, has been idling for as long as it's been around. Lurker Den, but no infestation pit. Dude, Reynor has been experimenting so much with Lair-Tech lurkers lately. I find it interesting. I think the unit is very mediocre, but if there ever is a situation where Lair-Tech lurkers are good, it would be against this. So many Hydralisks, though. Oh, Prism Dice. That's Prism number 2. Oh, no, Krystianer. Strategically, this game is pretty much perfect, but I don't know if I like it so much after the previous game. Zerg encountered this in much of the same way, and even though Reynor did make a Roach Warren this time around, he decided to skip them altogether. Kind of feels like he makes it more difficult for himself than it needs to be, but considering the Hydra stayed alive, right? As long as the Hydra numbers are there, life is going to be good. I also believe this base in the far bottom left is not actually scouted. No, he did see it. He just hasn't addressed it. Getting some gas going over here, though. It's going to make those lurkers kind of scary. Okay, so what Krystianer doesn't have here is Psystorm. What he doesn't have is Immortals. So how do you stop lurkers? We can only afford 2 at the moment. Hydra's in this concave, though, really strong. Prism number 3, ambitiously sieged up yet again. But there are the lurkers, and Krystianer's gonna see them. He doesn't know that this is all at Lair-Tech. Oh, he's gonna see the spines right now. He knows he needs to commit. Is there enough for the Protoss player to break through? Well, the lurkers are still alive. They're not really dealing that much damage. The Archons are just running around. Hydras trying to be microed in small little clumps, but as the shields start depleting on those Archons, I think the Hydras will be allowed to pop the balloons. Big warp in yet again, though, here for the Protoss player. Hydras taking the brunt of the damage themselves, but I think the numbers are just barely good enough. And there it is. Reynor gets the job done. So, after falling behind in the series, right? So he was 1-0 behind. He wins the scrappiest game number 2 ever. Admittedly, off of the back of a lot of Protoss mistakes. Obviously, he played that out as best as he probably could have, but to then go ahead and proceed to win the series 2-1 is kind of insane. Very fun matches, though. GG.